close your eyes for a moment, not to fall asleep yet, but just to feel the weight of the world begin to lift. The room around you is quiet, or perhaps there is a gentle hum from the street outside, the soft rhythm of a house settling. That is fine. Let that sound become the murmur of distant waves, the whisper of wind across a vast and ancient sea. The air is cool, and you can imagine the subtle smell of salt, the creak of wood, the gentle sway of something larger than yourself. You are not on land anymore. You are drifting. Let us travel together slowly to the open waters of the Mediterranean a long time ago. So long ago that the stars you see at night were not yet named in the way we know them, but they were still there, steady and patient, guiding the eyes of those who looked up from the decks of wooden ships. The year is perhaps 300 years before the Common Era, but the exact date does not matter. The night is the same. The sea is the same. And the people who sailed upon it, the Carthaginian sailors, they are the same in their need for rest, for the simple human act of closing their eyes after a long day of work. Picture a ship, not a grand warship with ranks of oars and the clash of bronze, but a merchant vessel, stout and full-bellied, carrying jars of olive oil, fine pottery, perhaps bales of purple-dyed cloth from the city of Tyre. The hull is made of cedar and pine, lashed together with ropes and coated with pitch to keep the water out. It smells of wood, of tar, of the faint sweetness of dried figs stored in the hold. The deck is not large. It is a working space, cluttered with coils of rope, amphorae stacked in rows, and sails furled against the mast. The sailors are men from Carthage, from the coast of North Africa, from the many ports that traded along the Mediterranean rim. They have dark skin weathered by the sun, hands calloused from hauling lines, and eyes that have grown accustomed to scanning the horizon for storms or ships. During the day, these men are busy. They set the sails, trim them to catch the wind, repair tiers, bail water, watch for landmarks. They eat simple meals of dried fish, barley bread, and olives, often sitting on the deck with their legs dangling over the side. They laugh and argue in the Punic language, a tongue that has long since faded from the earth. But at the time, it was the sound of commerce and navigation. And when the sun begins to sink, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, a quiet settles over the vessel. The work slows. The captain gives the orders for the night watch. And the question arises, as it does for every sailor on every sea, since the first time humans dared to leave the shore. Where do they sleep? You might imagine that a ship at sea, especially in the open Mediterranean, would have bunks or hammocks, some dedicated space for slumber. That is a modern comfort. For the Carthaginians, there was no such luxury. The ship itself was the bed. The sailors slept wherever they could find a flat patch of deck, a coil of rope to cushion their heads, a space between the cargo. They used their cloaks as blankets, the same thick woolen cloaks they wore during the cold watches of the night. Some carried small mats or animal hides, spread out on the hard wooden planks. The captain, being a person of some authority, might have a small cabin in the stern, a sliver of sheltered space with a thin mattress of straw. But for most of the crew, sleep was a public act, a communal surrender to the rhythm of the ship. Imagine yourself among them. You find a spot near the mast, where the wood is slightly worn smooth from years of other sailors resting against it. The deck is damp, not from rain, but from the constant spray of the sea, which leaves a fine layer of moisture on everything. You fold your cloak, place it under your head, and lie down. The surface is hard, uneven, and it rocks constantly, a motion that is never quite predictable. Some sailors find this soothing, like a cradle on a giant scale. Others find it unsettling, a reminder that the ground is not solid beneath them. The ship creaks and groans, each sound a conversation between the wood and the waves. The ropes whine in the wind. The water slaps against the hull in a steady, patient rhythm. And yet, they slept. They slept because they were tired. The work was exhausting, the days long and hot. The body demands rest, even in the most inhospitable places. So they learned to sleep in shifts, to guard the ship while others rested. The night was divided into watches, usually 4 hours each, sometimes 3. When your watch ended, you stumbled to your spot, not bothering to remove your sandals or your tunic, and you lay down, feeling the last warmth of the day leave the wood. The stars were your ceiling, infinite and cold. The sea was your floor, endless and dark. And between them, you were just a small, fragile thing, curled up on a piece of timber, trusting the wind and the water to hold you safe until morning. The Carthaginian sailors, like most seafarers of the ancient world, did not have the concept of a ship as a floating home in the way we might today. For them, the ship was a tool, a vessel of trade or war. It was not designed for comfort. There were no lanterns to read by, no cabins with doors, no soft pillows. The elements were always present. The dew settled on their faces. The wind tugged at their clothes. And the sea, that great, breathing mass, was always beneath them, never still. They might wake to find a wave had splashed over the side, soaking their bedding. They might wake to find the ship had changed course, and the morning light was slanting from a different direction. But there is a certain peace in that, if you let yourself feel it. The anonymity of sleep on a ship in the open sea. You are not in your own bed, not in your own home, not even on your own land. You are a guest of the wind, a passenger on the water. And in that surrender, there is a kind of freedom. The bones of the ship become your bed. The sky becomes your roof. The sound of the sea becomes the lullaby that carries you into dreams. The Carthaginians were known for their seamanship. They inherited the skills of the Phoenicians, those legendary sailors of the ancient Near East who navigated by the stars and traded from the coast of Africa to the shores of Britain. Carthage, on the coast of modern-day Tunisia, was a city built on the sea. Its prosperity came from ships, so the men who sailed them knew the sea intimately. They knew how to read the clouds, how to recognize the smell of an approaching storm, how to steer by the constellations. And they knew how to sleep in the midst of it all. There were dangers, of course. A sleeping sailor is a vulnerable sailor. Pirates roamed these waters, and a ship at night could be a target. So the watch was always armed. A few men would stay awake, their eyes scanning the darkness, their ears tuned to the creak of oars or the splash of a hull coming alongside. They carried knives or short swords, and there were bows stored in a chest near the helm. But most nights were quiet. The sea is vast, and ships were rare in the open waters after sunset. The pirates and the warships preferred the cover of darkness near the coasts, where they could hide behind islands or inlets. Out on the open Mediterranean, the night was a blanket of empty space. So the sailors slept. They slept in the warm months when the deck was dry and the air was soft. They slept in the cold months, huddled together for warmth, their cloaks pulled tight, their breath forming small clouds in the chill air. They slept through rain, letting the fresh water soak their clothes, knowing that it was better than a storm. They slept through squalls, when the ship pitched and rolled, and they had to hold onto ropes or cargo to keep from sliding across the deck. They slept in the lee of the sail, where the wind was broken, or in the shadow of the mast, where the moon cast a long, thin blade of silver across the boards. There is a story, or perhaps it is just a memory passed down through generations, that a Carthaginian sailor once said that the best pillow was a coil of rope because it did not hold the damp. Another said that you should always sleep with your feet pointing toward the bow, so that if the ship rolled, you would not slide into your neighbor. Small pieces of wisdom, the kind that come from a lifetime of discomfort. And there is a comfort in that, too. The knowledge that others before you have lain in the same spot, that their bodies have worn the wood, that their dreams have colored the air. The ship does not sleep. It is always moving, always working, even when the sails are down and the anchor is dropped. It breathes with the sea, and the sailors, they become part of that breathing. Their sleep is not the deep, motionless sleep of a bed on land. It is a lighter sleep, a drifting sleep, one that wakes easily at a change in the ship's motion, at an unusual sound, at a sudden cold gust. But it is rest, nonetheless. It is the rest that the body needs after a day of hauling, climbing, navigating, staring into the sun and the salt. As you lie there, in your imagined spot on the deck of that ancient ship, you begin to feel the same. The gentle sway becomes a rhythm. The creak of the wood becomes a familiar voice. The wind hums through the rigging like a distant song. You pull your cloak a little tighter, settle your head on the rough wool, and let the stars spin slowly overhead. The sea is dark, but it is not frightening. It is just there, patient and deep, holding you up. The Carthaginians are long gone. Their ships are dust at the bottom of the sea. Their cities are ruins. Their language is a whisper in ancient inscriptions. But the sea remains, and the act of sleeping on a ship, that simple human act, is still the same. The deck is still hard. The wind is still cool. The night is still vast. And somewhere, even now, a sailor on a small boat in the Mediterranean is curling up on his deck, using his arm as a pillow, and letting the waves carry him into dreams. The world changes, but the sea does not. And the way we rest on it, that stays the same. So let us stay here for a while. Let us drift on this ancient ship with the sailors around us breathing in the dark. The ship is moving, but slowly, as if it too is half asleep. The captain is at the helm, a shadowy figure against the faint glow of a lit horn lined with oil, its flames small and protected. He is watching the stars, checking the course, marking the time. Below him, the men are scattered across the deck, some snoring softly, some murmuring in their sleep, some lying still as stone. The cargo is tied down. The ropes are coiled. The lanterns are dark, to save oil and to avoid attracting attention. This is the life of a Carthaginian sailor. It is not glamorous. It is not comfortable, but it is real. And in that reality, there is a strange beauty. The beauty of human endurance, of making do with what you have, of finding rest in the most restless of places. The beauty of lying on a wooden deck under the stars, 20 meters above the dark water, with the whole of the Mediterranean around you, and knowing that for this one night you are safe, you are warm enough, you are drifting. Now let your breath slow. Let the motion of the ship become your own motion. Feel the wood beneath your back. Smell the sea salt, the pitch, the faint traces of olive oil and wine from the amphory. Hear the distant call of a night bird, or perhaps it is the splash of a fish. The voices of the past are not gone. They are just quiet. And if you listen carefully, you can hear them. The sailors of Carthage, settling down for the night one more time on the open Mediterranean. And so the night stretches on, and the ship becomes a world unto itself. The men who sleep are not all the same. Some are young, barely old enough to grow a beard, their first voyage away from the land. Others are weathered, their skin cracked like old leather, their hair gray and thin, their eyes half closed even when they are awake. They have seen storms that swallowed ships whole. They have seen calms that lasted for days, when the sea turned to glass and the sun beat down like a hammer. They have seen the coast of Spain and the coast of Sicily, the islands of Sardinia and the shores of Libya. And they have slept on all of them, in all conditions, on all kinds of ships. But tonight, on this ship, there is a particular stillness. The wind is gentle, coming from the north, pushing them slowly toward the straits that separate Africa from Europe. The captain has set a course that will keep them well away from the rocky shores of Sicily, and he trusts the stars to guide him. He does not need to shout. He does not need to wake the men. The ship knows what to do. It has been doing this for centuries, in a way, built from the same designs that the Phoenicians used long before Carthage was even a city. The planks are carved from Lebanese cedar, strapped together with mortise and tenon joints, sealed with pitch. The sail is linen, dyed a deep red, now furled and tied to the yardarm. The oars are stowed, except for a single steering oar at the stern, which the captain holds with a loose grip, feeling the water like a pulse. And the sailors sleep. They sleep in clusters, like animals in a nest, sharing warmth and breath. A few have wrapped themselves in woolen cloaks that are thick with use, patched in places, stained with salt and wine. Others have only a thin tunic, and they lie close to their companions, their legs tangled, their arms draped over each other. There is no privacy on a ship like this. The body is a common thing, a tool for work, and in sleep, it becomes simply another piece of the ship, another weight to be balanced, another sound in the dark. You might hear a man cough, a deep, phlegmy cough that echoes off the deck. He is an older sailor, his lungs filled with the dust of grain and the smoke of campfires. He has been coughing for years, and he will cough until he dies, probably at sea, probably on a night like this. He does not complain. He just turns over, spits into the darkness, and settles back into his dream. Another man murmurs something in a language you do not quite recognize. It might be a prayer, or it might be the name of a woman he left behind in Carthage, or it might be nothing at all, just the random firing of a tired mind. The sea does not care. The sea just listens. And that is the strange thing about sleeping on a ship. You are never truly alone, but you are also never truly with anyone. The men around you are close enough to touch, but their dreams are separate, private, drifting in their own currents. You cannot know what they see when they close their eyes. Perhaps they see the market of Carthage, the crowded streets, the smell of spices and incense, the sound of merchants shouting. Perhaps they see the hills of their childhood, the dry grass, the olive trees, the whitewashed houses. Perhaps they see nothing at all, just a dark, empty space, a kind of relief from the constant effort of being awake. The night wears on, and the stars shift. The captain changes the steering oar, letting the ship fall off a little to the west. He is counting the hours by the position of the bear, the constellation that the Greeks call Ursa Major, but which the Phoenicians called the wagon. They have their own names for the stars, names that are older than the Greek words, names that were whispered by sailors long before Homer wrote his epics. They call the North Star the nail, because it is the fixed point around which the sky turns. They call the Pleiades the little ones, and they know that when they rise before dawn, the planting season has begun. They carry this knowledge in their bones, passed down from father to son, from captain to apprentice, a living map of the sky. And the sailors, even in sleep, are part of that map. Their bodies are aligned with the ship, and the ship is aligned with the stars. They do not think about it. They do not need to. It is as natural as breathing. The ship moves, the stars move, the men sleep, and the night passes. There is a moment just before dawn when the air changes. The wind drops, the sea settles, and a kind of hush falls over everything. The sailors feel it even in their sleep. They stir, some of them, rolling onto their backs, opening their eyes for a moment to see the dark blue of the sky beginning to pale. The stars are fading. The horizon is becoming a line, a thin, soft edge between the sea and the sky. The captain calls out, a low, gentle command, and the men begin to wake. They do not wake with a start. They wake slowly, like the tide turning, like the sun rising. They stretch, they yawn, they rub their eyes. They look at the sky, they look at the sea, they smell the air. They know, without being told, what kind of day it will be. But we are not there yet. We are still in the night, in that deep, quiet hour when the world is holding its breath. And if you are still with me, still lying on that imaginary deck, you can feel the ship beneath you, the wood, the rope, the canvas. You can feel the gentle rocking, the lift and fall, the endless rhythm of the sea. You can hear the water lapping against the hull, a soft, almost musical sound, like someone running their fingers over the strings of a lyre, but very far away. You can hear the breathing of the men, the occasional snore, the rustle of a cloak, the creak of a plank. And you can hear the silence too, the great, deep silence that lies underneath all the other sounds, the silence of the open sea. In that silence, you might begin to think about the nature of sleep itself. The Carthaginians, like all ancient peoples, believed that sleep was a kind of small death, a time when the soul could wander. They had stories about dreams, about visitations from gods and ancestors, about prophecies and warnings. A sailor who dreamed of a storm would be listened to. A sailor who dreamed of a fish might be told to be careful with the nets. There were rituals, small offerings made before bedding down, a pinch of salt thrown into the sea, a whispered prayer to Melkart, the patron god of sailors and travelers. These were not grand ceremonies. They were simple, private, almost automatic. A man would touch the mast, or the steering oar, or a coil of rope, and say a few words, and then he would lie down and close his eyes. But the sleep itself was not always peaceful. There were nightmares, of course. The sea is a place of danger, and the mind does not forget that, even in sleep. A sailor might dream of drowning, of being pulled down into the dark, of the pressure of the water crushing his chest. He might dream of monsters, of sea creatures with teeth as long as a man's arm, of giant squids that could wrap their tentacles around a ship and drag it under. He might dream of fire, of a ship burning on the water, the flames reflected in the eyes of his comrades. These dreams were real as the water, as real as the wood. But they passed, like the clouds, like the waves. And the sailor would wake, and he would breathe, and he would see that the ship was still there, and the stars were still there, and the world was still turning. And there was comfort in that too. The comfort of waking up, of realizing that the dream was not real, that the danger was not here, that the night was still quiet, and the ship was still safe. It is a feeling that every sailor knows, a feeling that is hard to describe to someone who has never slept on the water. It is a gratitude, a relief, a deep and quiet thankfulness that you are still above the surface, still drawing breath, still part of the world. The Carthaginians had a word for that feeling, or so the scholars say. It was something like heezed, a word that meant both kindness and loyalty, a sense of being held by something larger than yourself. They believed that the sea was a living thing, a goddess, a force that could be cruel or merciful, but that was always present. And when they slept, they were trusting themselves to that presence, to the benevolence of the deep. It was an act of faith, as much as any prayer. And so, as you lie there on the deck, you might feel that same faith rising in you. The ship is old, the wood is worn, the ropes are frayed, but it holds. The sea is vast, the night is dark, but it does not harm you. The men around you are strangers, but they breathe the same air, they share the same journey. And the stars, those ancient, unchanging lights, they watch over you, just as they watched over the sailors of Carthage, just as they watch over the sailors of today. The night is deep, But it is not endless. The stars will fade, the sun will rise, and the ship will continue on its course. But for now, for this moment, there is only the rocking and the breathing and the sound of the water. There is only the warmth of your own body, the rough wool of your cloak, the hard wood of the deck. And there is the slow, steady drift of sleep coming to claim you, like a tide that knows no hurry. Breathe in, breathe out. The ship moves, the world turns, and you too are moving, turning, drifting into the quiet, into the dark, into the arms of the sea. You are drifting now, truly drifting, and the ship is helping you. The motion is not the sharp, jolting rock of a small boat in a choppy harbor. It is the long, slow roll of a vessel that has found its rhythm, a rhythm that matches the deep pulse of the sea itself. The hull rises, pauses at the crest of a swell, and then descends with a gentle sigh, like the breath of a sleeping giant. There is no hurry. There is no destination, not in this moment. There is only this, the wood, the water, the dark. And in this state, half asleep, half awake, your mind begins to wander, not with purpose, but with the lazy current of a stream that has no banks. You might think about the men who have slept on this same deck before you. The Carthaginians were not the first to cross this sea. The Phoenicians, their ancestors, had been sailing these waters for centuries before the city of Carthage was even founded, before Dido, the legendary queen, fled from Tyre and built her fortress on the coast of North Africa. They had come from the east, from the cities of Byblos and Sidon and Tyre, carrying purple dye and cedar wood and glass beads. They had sailed to Cyprus, to Crete, to the islands of the Aegean. They had passed through the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar, and ventured out into the Atlantic, down the coast of Africa, up to the shores of Spain and Britain. And on all those voyages, they had slept. They had lain down on hard decks under unfamiliar stars, and they had closed their eyes. What did those early sailors dream of? Perhaps they dreamed of their homes, of the narrow streets of Tyre, of the smell of the dye works, of the laughter of children. Perhaps they dreamed of the sea itself, of the great fish that swam beneath the keel, of the waves that rose like mountains. Perhaps they dreamed of the unknown, of lands that no one had seen, of rivers that flowed with gold, of forests that were dark and deep. And perhaps they dreamed of nothing at all, just the empty, welcoming darkness that comes after a long day of labor. The mind, after all, is kind. It gives us rest when we need it most. You might wonder, too, about the conditions of their sleep. It was not, by any modern standard, comfortable. The deck was hard. The wood was rough, often splintered, and the seams were caulked with pitch and tar, which gave off a sharp, smoky smell that mixed with the salt and the sweat and the damp. The sailors did not have pillows. They did not have blankets, not in the way we think of them. They had cloaks, heavy wool cloaks that could be wrapped around the body for warmth, and they had the ship's cargo, sometimes, to lean against. Amphorae, the large clay jars used for storing wine and oil and grain, were often stacked on the deck, and a sailor might find a spot between them, wedged in like a piece of the cargo himself, held in place by the clay and the rope. But there was a skill to it, a craft. A seasoned sailor did not lie down at random. He chose his spot with care, feeling the wood with his hands to find a place that was not too worn, not too rough, not too close to a leak. He considered the wind, the direction of the spray, the movement of the ship. He knew that the stern was drier, but that it also had more motion, rising and falling with the wake. He knew that the bow was more exposed, but that the sound of the water was louder there, a constant roar that could drown out the noise of the crew. He knew that the center of the ship, near the mast, was the most stable, but also the most crowded, where the men congregated for warmth and company. And so he would find his place, spread his cloak, and settle in. He would lie on his side, his knees drawn up, his head resting on one arm or on a small bundle of spare cloth. He would pull the cloak over his shoulders, tuck the edges under his legs, and close his eyes. And then he would begin the slow process of letting go. There is a particular moment in this process, a threshold between waking and sleeping, that the ancients knew well. The Greeks called it hypnagogia, the state of falling asleep, when the mind begins to produce images and sounds that are not quite dreams, not quite reality. It is a strange and delicate time. The sailor might hear voices that are not there, see faces in the dark, feel a touch on his skin that comes from nowhere. He might think he is still awake, but he is not. He is crossing the border, entering the country of sleep. The Carthaginians had their own understanding of this state. They believed that in these moments, the soul was particularly vulnerable to the influence of the gods and the spirits. They would make small protective gestures, touching an amulet, murmuring a charm, tracing a symbol on the wood with their finger. These were not elaborate rituals. They were quiet, private, almost invisible. But they were important. They were a way of saying to the unseen forces of the night, I am here, I am small, I ask for your mercy. And the night, in its vastness, seemed to respond. The wind would drop, the waves would settle, and a deep calm would settle over the ship. The stars would burn a little brighter. The water would glow with a faint phosphorescence, the bioluminescence of tiny creatures that lit up the wake like a trail of scattered diamonds. It was a kind of magic, a visible reminder that the world was alive, that the sea was full of mysteries, that even in the dark there was light. If you were to open your eyes at this moment, you would see the captain still at the steering oar, his figure a dark silhouette against the sky. He is not sleeping. He is waiting. He is watching the stars, watching the horizon, listening to the wind. He knows that his turn to rest will come, but not yet. For now he is the guardian, the one who holds the course, the one who keeps the ship safe. He does not think about it as a burden. It is simply what he does. It is his part in the great, unending cycle of the voyage. And the men, the sleeping men, they are part of that cycle too. They are resting now so that they can work later. They are gathering strength for the dawn, for the tasks that wait, the hauling of the sail, the bailing of the bilge, the trimming of the cargo, the endless small repairs that keep a ship alive. They are not idle. They are preparing in the most fundamental way possible for the demands of the coming day. And you are part of it too. You are lying on the deck, feeling the wood, hearing the water, watching the stars. You are not a sailor, not a Carthaginian, not a Phoenician. You are a visitor, a traveler through time, a guest in this ancient world. But you are welcome here. The ship does not know you are different. The sea does not ask for your credentials. You are just another body, another breath, another beating heart. And the night embraces you, just as it has embraced every sailor for thousands of years. There is a story told among the sailors of the Mediterranean about a man who went to sleep on a ship and did not wake up. It is not a story of drowning or of violence or of accident. It is a quieter story, a stranger one. The man, the story goes, was a Phoenician sailor, old and tired, who had spent his whole life on the water. He had sailed to every port, seen every coast, weathered every kind of storm. And one night, on a calm sea under a clear sky, he lay down on the deck, pulled his cloak over his face, and simply stopped breathing. He did not struggle. He did not cry out. He just let go, like a ship slipping its moorings, drifting away into the dark. The crew found him in the morning. They did not mourn him, not in the way we might expect. They accepted it. They saw it as a natural end, a fitting end for a man who had given his life to the sea. They wrapped his body in his cloak, weighted it with stones, and committed it to the deep. They said a few words, a prayer to Melkart, to Eshmun, to the gods of the ocean. And then they turned back to their work. The ship continued on its course. The sea continued its rhythm. And the man, the old sailor, became part of the element that had carried him for so long. It is not a sad story, if you think about it. It is a peaceful one. It is a reminder that our time on the water, like our time on the earth, is limited. We are all passengers, all travelers, all transient. And the sea, in its vast and patient way, is always waiting. It does not demand. It does not push. It simply receives, holds, and eventually takes back what was always part of it. You can feel that truth now, lying on the deck. The ship is a vessel, but it is also a symbol. It is a container of life, a fragile shell that carries us across the infinite. And sleep is a kind of vessel too. It carries us across the dark, from one day to the next, from the known to the unknown and back again. It is a journey within a journey, a voyage within a voyage. The stars are beginning to shift again. The night is aging, moving toward its end. The captain adjusts the steering oar, a small correction, a few degrees to port. The ship responds, turning its bow slightly, like a sleeping animal adjusting its position. The men stir, some of them murmuring in their sleep, but they do not wake. They are deep in the current now, carried by the tide of rest. And you too are deep. You can feel the weight of your body, the heaviness of your limbs, the soft, persistent pull of sleep. It is not a force that fights you. It is a friend, an old companion, a presence that has been with you since the beginning. It knows you. It knows your breathing, your pulse, the shape of your thoughts. It is patient. It will wait. The water laps against the hull, a soft, repetitive sound, like the breathing of the ship itself. The wind is quiet, barely a whisper. The stars are fading slowly, imperceptibly, as the first hint of gray appears in the east. It is not yet dawn. It is the moment before dawn, the deepest, darkest part of the night, the hour when the world is most still. And in that stillness, you can hear it. You can hear the sound of your own heart beating in time with the gentle rock of the ship. You can hear the sound of your own breath moving in and out, a rhythm as old as life. And you can hear the sound of the sea, the great, endless, patient voice of the deep, saying nothing, saying everything, saying what it has always said to those who listen. Rest now. Let go. The ship is safe. The night is kind. And tomorrow, when the sun rises, you will wake, and you will remember nothing of this, or you will remember everything, and it will not matter. What matters is this moment, this breath, this quiet, this peace. Breathe in, breathe out. The ship moves. The world turns. And you are here, lying on the deck of a Carthaginian ship, under the stars of the open Mediterranean, drifting, drifting, drifting into the deep. The deep, the deep. It is not a place, not exactly. It is a feeling, a sensation of falling and floating at the same time, of being held and released in equal measure. The ship continues its gentle motion, and you continue to drift, your thoughts becoming softer, less defined, like clouds dissolving into the night sky. There is a sound you begin to notice now, a sound that has been there all along, but that you have not quite heard. It is the sound of the ropes, the rigging, the lines that hold the mast in place. They hum in the wind, a low, continuous note, like a distant organ played by the breath of the sea. It is not a melody. It is more like a single, sustained tone, a drone that underlies everything else. The water against the hull, the creak of the timbers, the soft breathing of the sleeping men, all of it is woven into this one note, this constant, patient sound. The Carthaginians, like many ancient sailors, called this sound the voice of the ship. They believed that every vessel had its own voice, its own unique hum, shaped by the wood, the age, the number of voyages it had made. An old ship, they said, sang in a lower register, its voice deepened by years of salt and sun. A new ship was brighter higher, almost like a child's voice, still finding its pitch. And the sailors would listen to this voice, not with their ears alone, but with their whole bodies. They could tell from the quality of the hum whether the wind was steady, whether the rigging was secure, whether the ship was content or troubled. You can feel it too if you let yourself. The vibration travels up through the deck, through the wood, through your body. It is a subtle thing, barely perceptible, but it is there. It connects you to the ship, to the sea, to the wind. You are not just lying on a surface. You are lying on a living thing, a creature of wood and rope and canvas, and it is breathing with you. Somewhere forward, near the bow, a man stirs in his sleep and mumbles something in a language you do not understand. It is not a word, not exactly. It is a sound, a murmur, a fragment of a dream. The man next to him shifts, turns, and settles again. They are like animals in a den, curling together for warmth and comfort. There is no privacy on a ship like this, no walls, no doors, no separate spaces. Everyone is exposed to everyone else. And yet, there is a kind of intimacy in that exposure, a trust that is hard to find on land. These men have chosen to share their vulnerability, to sleep side by side with strangers who have become brothers, to place their lives in the hands of the captain and the gods. The captain, still at the steering oar, does not look at them. He looks at the stars, at the horizon, at the faint line where the sky meets the sea. He is counting, not in numbers, but in constellations. He knows the time by the position of Orion, by the turning of the Bear, by the slow arc of the Pleiades. He does not need a clock. The sky is his clock, and it has never failed him. He thinks of his home, a small house on the coast near Carthage, with a courtyard and a fig tree and a wife who waits for him. He thinks of his children, their faces already blurring in his memory, growing older with each voyage. He thinks of the next port, the next cargo, the next negotiation. But these thoughts are distant, floating like clouds on the horizon. They do not demand his full attention. His full attention is on the ship, on the wind, on the now. And the now is peaceful. The now is dark and quiet and full of stars. The now is the deep. You might wonder, in this state of half-sleep, what happens to a man's mind after so many nights on the water. Does he lose touch with the land? Does he forget what it means to sleep on solid ground? The answer, according to the sailors themselves, is yes and no. Yes, because the body adapts. The inner ear learns to expect the motion, the gentle roll, the constant shift of balance. When a sailor returns home and lies down on a bed that does not move, he often feels dizzy, disoriented, as if the world has suddenly become too still. Some sailors call this land sickness, the opposite of seasickness. It can last for days, a strange, unsettling feeling that the earth itself is swaying. And no, because the mind never fully leaves the land behind. The images of home, of family, of familiar streets and markets are carried with the sailor like a hidden cargo. They surface in dreams, in the quiet moments between watches, in the stories told to pass the time. Every sailor is a traveler between two worlds, the world of the sea and the world of the shore, and he belongs to neither completely. There is a Carthaginian saying, passed down through generations, that goes something like this. The sailor is a man with one foot on the deck and one foot in the grave. It sounds grim, but it is not meant to be. It is a reminder that the sea is a threshold, a place between life and death, between the known and the unknown. To sail is to accept that threshold, to live with one foot always in the mystery. And so, as you lie on the deck, you are also standing on that threshold. You are not quite awake, not quite asleep. You are between. And in that betweenness, you can see things that are hidden in the harsh light of day. You can see the patterns in the stars, the shimmer of the phosphorescence, the slow dance of the clouds. You can feel the pulse of the ship, the rhythm of the sea, the breath of the wind. You are not separate from any of it. You are part of the whole. A small wave slaps against the hull, a little louder than the others, and a spray of salt water lands on your cheek. It is cold, surprisingly cold, and it jolts you for a moment, pulling you back toward wakefulness. But only for a moment. The cold fades, the warmth of your body returns, and you sink back into the deep. The deep is patient. It has been waiting for you. Now, let us move to another part of the ship, a part that you have not yet seen in this night. Forward, beyond the mast, beyond the row of sleeping men, there is a small space, a kind of alcove, formed by the curve of the bow. It is here that the ship's cook sleeps, or tries to sleep. His name is Hanno, a young man from a village near the coast, with calloused hands and a quiet smile. He is responsible for the food, for the fire, for the water. He carries a clay pot, a small one, that he keeps close to his chest even when he sleeps. Inside the pot is a handful of dried figs, a gift from his mother before he left. He has not eaten them. He is saving them for a special day, a day when the sea is calm and the wind is fair, and the crew is in good spirits. He does not know when that day will come, but he believes it will. Hanno dreams, as he sleeps, of the figs. He dreams of the tree in his mother's courtyard, the leaves rustling in the afternoon breeze, the fruit warm and sweet from the sun. Dreams of his mother's hands, placing the figs in the pot, her voice saying something he cannot quite hear. The dream is simple, but it is powerful. It is a thread that connects him to home, to the land, to the life he left behind. All the sailors have such threads. A small amulet, a worn coin, a scrap of cloth, a dried flower. These are not just souvenirs. They are anchors, physical objects that hold them to the world of the living, that remind them of who they are when the sea tries to erase their names. In the deep of the night, when fear and doubt creep in, these little things become talismans. They are touched, whispered to, held against the heart, and the sea, in its vastness, does not begrudge them these small comforts. The sea is not jealous. It is simply there, patient, waiting. You might open your eyes now, just a crack, and see the darkness shift. The stars are moving slowly, imperceptibly, like the hands of a cosmic clock. The ship is moving too, carried by a current you cannot see, a current that has been flowing for thousands of years. It is the same current that carried the first Phoenician traders, the Greek colonists, the Roman merchants. It is the same current that will carry ships long after you are gone. And you, lying on the deck, are a part of that current. You are not the first to sleep here, and you will not be the last. The wood beneath you has held countless bodies, countless dreams, countless breaths. It has soaked up the salt of 1,000 voyages. It knows the weight of a sleeping man, the rhythm of his breathing, the warmth of his skin. It remembers. There is a legend among the sailors of the Mediterranean, a story about a ship that sailed for 100 years without ever docking. It was said to be crewed by ghosts, by men who had died on the water and could not leave. They would sail forever, always on the edge of the horizon, always just out of reach. The story was told to frighten new sailors, to warn them of the dangers of becoming too attached to the sea. But it was also told with a kind of reverence, a recognition that the sea does not let go easily. It holds what it takes, and it takes what it holds. You are not a ghost. You are alive, breathing, warm. But you are also held gently by the sea. It does not want to keep you. It wants to carry you, to show you something, to remind you of what you are. The night is halfway through now. The stars are at their highest, the darkness at its deepest. The captain, still at the steering oar, feels the fatigue in his bones. He has been awake for many hours, and his eyes are heavy. But he will not rest until his relief comes, a man named Boda, a veteran sailor with a missing finger and a calm voice. Boda will take over in a few hours, just before dawn. The captain counts the time by the stars, by the slow turning of the sky. He knows that the night is long, but it will end. And you are not counting time. You are not waiting for anything. You are simply here in this moment, in this breath, in this deep. A fish leaps out of the water, not far from the ship. You hear the splash, the quick, wet sound of a body breaking the surface. It is gone in an instant, back into the darkness. The sailors do not stir. They are used to such sounds. The sea is full of life, even at night, even in the deep. The fish are hunting, feeding, moving through the water with a grace that humans can only imagine. They do not sleep as we do. They sleep with one eye open, if they sleep at all. They are always alert, always ready. You can learn something from them. You can learn to be present, to let go of the need to control, to trust the current. The fish do not resist the water. They move with it, through it, in it. They are not separate from the sea. They are the sea, in a way, just as you are the ship, the night, the dream. The deep is not a place of fear. It is a place of acceptance. It is a place where you can let go of the day, of the worries, of the plans, of the past. It is a place where you can simply be. And so, you let go. You release the tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your jaw, the racing of your mind. You let the ship rock you, the water sing to you, the stars watch over you. You are safe. You are held. You are home. Breathe in, breathe out. The ship moves. The world turns. And you are here, lying on the deck of a Carthaginian ship, under the stars of the open Mediterranean, drifting, drifting, drifting into the deep. And in this deep, you begin to see. Not with your eyes, but with something older, something deeper. You see the faces of the sailors who have slept on this deck before you. Phoenicians, Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, Normans, Venetians, all the peoples of the sea. They are not ghosts. They are memories, impressions left in the wood, in the air, in the very salt of the spray. They are part of the ship, part of the voyage, part of you. You see a Phoenician sailor, young, no more than 16, lying in the same spot where you now lie. He is afraid. It is his first voyage, and he is far from home. He does not know the stars. He does not know the wind. He does not know the names of the gods he should pray to. He is clutching a small amulet, a carving of a horse, a gift from his father, is whispering a prayer over and over, a prayer his father taught him. Melkart, guide my way, Melkart, guide my way. You see him fall asleep, finally, his hand still clutching the amulet. You see the fear slowly leave his face, replaced by the softness of rest. And you know, somehow, that he will survive. He will learn the stars. He will learn the wind. He will become a sailor, a man of the sea. And one day, he will teach his own son the same prayer. The vision fades, like a cloud passing across the moon. You are back in the present, back in your own body, back in the deep. But the prayer lingers, a faint echo. Melkart, guide my way. It is not a desperate plea. It is a quiet affirmation, a recognition that the journey is not yours alone. There are forces beyond you, beyond the ship, beyond the sea. And they are guiding you, whether you know it or not. The wind shifts, a slight change in direction. The captain adjusts the sail, a slow, deliberate motion. The ship responds, leaning into the new wind, finding a new balance. The hum of the rigging changes, a little higher now, a little sharper. The voice of the ship is speaking, telling you that the night is moving on, and you move with it. You are not resisting. You are not trying to stay awake or to fall asleep. You are simply moving, carried by the current of this night, this story, this dream. There is a tradition among the Carthaginian sailors, a ritual performed just before dawn. The man who will take the first watch of the day will walk to the bow, stand at the very tip of the ship, and face the east. He will wait, silent and still, for the first sign of light. He will not speak. He will not move. He will simply watch and wait and breathe. The other sailors will begin to stir, sensing the change in the air. They will stretch, yawn, sit up slowly. They will check their gear, touch their amulets, murmur their own small prayers. The ship will come alive slowly, like a body waking from sleep. But that is still a long way off. For now, the night holds. The stars are still bright. The sea is still calm. The deep is still deep. And you are still here, lying on the deck, feeling the wood, hearing the water, watching the stars. You are not a sailor, not a Carthaginian, not a Phoenician. You are a visitor, a traveler through time, a guest in this ancient world. But you are welcome here. The ship does not know you are different. The sea does not ask for your credentials. You are just another body, another breath, another beating heart. And the night embraces you, just as it has embraced every sailor for thousands of years. Breathe in, breathe out. The ship moves, the world turns, and you are here in the deep. Let the deep hold you now. Let it carry you through the remaining hours of the night. There is nothing you need to do. There is nothing you need to remember. There is only this moment, this breath, this quiet, this peace. And when the dawn comes, you will wake, or you will not. Either way, it is not for you to decide. The sea will decide. The stars will decide. The deep will decide. For now, rest, 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 rest. And as you rest, the ship continues its ancient conversation with the sea. You hear the gentle groan of the timbers, a sound so deep and so familiar that it could be the voice of the earth itself. The Carthaginian shipwrights built their vessels with a knowledge passed down through generations, a knowledge of wood and water, of tension and release. They knew that a ship must be flexible, must bend with the waves, must give and take. A rigid ship would break. A ship that cannot sway will snap. So the planks are not nailed tight, they are lashed with ropes, tied with leather, held together by a living, breathing connection. And at night, when the ship is quiet, you can hear it breathing. You can hear the wood expanding and contracting, the ropes tightening and loosening, the whole vessel adjusting itself to the cold of the night and the warmth of the day. The sailors who lie around you are not all sleeping the same way. Some are curled on their sides, knees drawn up, their heads resting on coiled ropes or folded cloaks. Others lie flat on their backs, arms at their sides, faces turned upward to the stars. A few have wrapped themselves entirely in their cloaks, making themselves into tight bundles that barely move. The snoring is a low, varied music, like the sound of a small harbor at night, with different pitches and rhythms blending together. One sailor, An older man named Himilco is known to talk in his sleep. He often recites cargo manifests or argues with a ghost about the price of tin. His shipmates have learned to ignore him. They simply shift a little farther away and go back to sleep. Tonight he is murmuring something about purple dye, about the proper way to extract it from murex shells. The words are soft, almost unintelligible, like water bubbling over stones. Sleep on a Carthaginian ship was not the deep, unconscious kind you might know from a bed on land. It was a light, watchful rest, a state of half-awareness that could be broken at the slightest change. The sailors called it the sea sleep, a gift and a burden of the mariner. They learned to nap in short bursts, 15 minutes here, an hour there, always with one ear open to the wind, the waves, the captain's voice. It was a skill developed over years, a way of surviving the long voyages that could stretch from spring to autumn, from Carthage to the Pillars of Hercules and beyond. The body learned to recharge quickly, to grab rest whenever the ship was steady and the watch was quiet. You might wonder how they managed to sleep at all, given the hardness of the deck, the motion of the ship, the constant sound of water. But the human body is adaptable, especially when it has no other choice. The deck, though hard, becomes familiar. The motion, though constant, becomes a cradle. The sound of water becomes a lullaby. After a few nights, the sailors no longer notice these things. They simply lie down, close their eyes, and let the ship take them. They have a saying: the sea rocks the sailor as the mother rocks the child. It is a saying passed down from the Phoenicians, the first great sailors of the Mediterranean. And there is a certain wisdom to it. The sea does not treat you as an enemy or a stranger. It treats you as a part of itself, a small piece of a larger whole. It moves you, shapes you, teaches you patience. You cannot fight the sea and sleep well. You must surrender, let go, trust. And that is exactly what the sailors do, night after night, year after year. They surrender to the darkness, to the motion, to the unknown. The captain, still at the steering oar, shifts his weight slightly. He has been standing for hours, but his body has its own rhythm. He knows how to relax his legs, to let his arms rest between adjustments. He is not tense. He is alert but calm. His eyes scan the horizon, the stars, the sail. Every few minutes he looks down at the deck, at the sleeping forms of his crew. He counts them, not because he expects any to be missing, but because it is a habit, a simple reassurance. They are all there, they are all safe. The night is holding them. You are not a sailor, not a Carthaginian, not a Phoenician, but you too are held in the same night. You lie on the same deck, under the same stars. The wood that supports you is the same wood that supported countless others. It has absorbed their sweat, their warmth, their quiet prayers. It holds a memory of every voyage, every storm, every calm. You can feel it if you let yourself, a faint vibration, like the last echo of a song long finished. It is not a haunting. It is a resonance, a connection across time. There's a legend among the sailors, older than the one about the ghost ship, a story that is told only when the night is very still and the moon is hidden. It is a story about the first ship ever to sail the Mediterranean, a vessel built by the god Melkart himself. He carved it from a single cedar, hollowed it with fire, lashed it with the sinews of a bull. He sailed it to the edge of the world, where the sky meets the sea in a curtain of golden light. There he planted an olive tree, and from that tree grew the cities of Tyre and Sidon and Carthage. The story is not meant to be believed literally, but to remind the sailors that they are part of something ancient, something sacred. Their ship is not just wood and rope. It is a descendant of that first vessel, a child of the gods' hands. You hear a soft splash, another fish, perhaps a dolphin, breaking the surface. The sound is gentle, like a sigh. The sailors do not stir. They have heard it 1,000 times. But you might listen more closely, and if you do, you might hear something else, a faint singing, high and thin, barely audible above the water. It is the sound of the sea at night, the voice of the deep. Some say it is the souls of drowned sailors calling to the living. Others say it is the wind playing on the water, a natural music. Either way, it is beautiful, and it does not bring fear. It brings a kind of peace, a reminder that the sea is alive, and that you are alive within it. Slowly, the sky begins to shift. Not in brightness, not yet, but in the arrangement of the stars. They drift imperceptibly toward the west. The night is aging, moving toward its final hours. The captain feels it in his bones. He knows that his relief, Boda, will be waking soon, stretching, coming forward to take the steering oar. But there is still time, a pocket of darkness that feels vast and yet finite. The captain allows himself a small sigh, a release of breath. He is tired, but the tiredness is familiar, almost comfortable. And you continue to rest. You are not counting time. You are not waiting for dawn. You are simply present here in this moment. The ship rocks you. The water sings to you. The stars watch over you. Let me tell you about the stars that the Carthaginian sailors knew. They did not have the names we use today. They had their own names, their own stories. The constellation we call Ursa Major, the Great Bear, they called the chariot of Melkart. It was said to carry the god across the sky each night, his wheels scattering sparks that became the lesser stars. The Pleiades, which we sometimes call the Seven Sisters, they called the daughters of Tanit, the goddess of the sea. They believed that when the daughters were high in the sky, the sea would be calm, and when they were low, storms might come. The sailors watched them carefully, not with instruments, but with years of experience. They could read the sky like we read a map. There is a particular star, a bright one near the horizon, that the Carthaginians called the navigator's eye. It is what we know as Sirius, the dog star. To them, it was the eye of the god Baal Hammon, watching over the ships, guiding them through the dark. When that star appeared just above the water, it meant that dawn was not far off. The captain looks for it now, and he sees it, a pinprick of light in the east. He nods to himself. Boda will be waking soon. But before that, there is a quiet ritual. The captain reaches into a small pouch tied to his belt and takes out a piece of dried bread. He crumbles it into his palm, then casts it into the sea. It is an offering, a small gift to the gods of the deep. He whispers a prayer, too low for anyone else to hear. The bread scatters on the water, and the sea accepts it without a sound. This is a tradition older than Carthage itself, a practice that the Phoenicians brought from their homeland. It is a way of saying thank you, a way of asking for safe passage, a way of acknowledging that the sea gives and the sea takes, and that you are only a guest. The sailors on the deck do not see this, but they feel it. Some of them shift in their sleep, as if sensing the prayer. The ship seems to settle a little deeper into the water, as if it too has been blessed. You might feel it as well, a warmth, a presence, a subtle change in the air. It is not a dramatic shift. It is more like a softening, a gentle easing of the night. The darkness becomes a little less absolute, the stars a little more distinct. The deep accepts the offering and returns a moment of quiet. And in that quiet, you can hear your own breathing. You can feel your heart beating, a steady rhythm that matches the motion of the sea. You are not separate from the ship, not separate from the night. You are woven into the same fabric, a thread in the vast tapestry of the Mediterranean. There is a story about a Carthaginian sailor named Hanno, who sailed beyond the pillars of Hercules, down the coast of Africa, into the unknown. He kept a journal, or perhaps a poem, describing what he saw. Great mountains burning with fire, strange beasts with tusks like trees, people who spoke a language he could not understand. At night, he and his crew slept on the deck, just as you do now, under stars that were unfamiliar, in waters that held no history for them. But they slept. They slept because they were exhausted, because the sea demanded it, because the body knows when to rest. Hanno wrote that on one night, so dark that he could not see his own hand, he fell asleep to the sound of drums beating somewhere on the shore. The drums continued all night, a distant heartbeat, and the sailors dreamed of home. You are not Hanno. You are not sailing into the unknown. You are sailing into your own rest, your own darkness, your own deep. And the same sea that carried Hanno carries you. The same stars that guided him shine above you. The same sleep that found him finds you. It is a strange comfort, is it not? To know that you are part of a long chain of sleepers, a lineage of rest. Every sailor who ever dozed on the deck of a ship in the open Mediterranean is your companion in this moment. They are with you, their breaths mingling with the night air, their dreams dissolving into the stars. You are not alone. You have never been alone. The wind freshens slightly, a cool breath from the north. The captain adjusts the sail again, a small movement. The ship responds, leaning a little more to the south. The hum of the rigging changes, deepens. It is the ship talking to itself, telling you that the night is moving on. And you move with it. You are not resisting. You are not trying to stay awake or to fall asleep. You are simply moving, carried by the current of this night, this story, this dream. There is a tradition among the Carthaginian sailors, a simple practice that helps them find sleep when it seems elusive. They lie on their backs, place their hands on their stomachs, and breathe in a slow, deliberate pattern. They imagine the breath entering through the soles of their feet, rising through their legs, their chests, their heads, and then flowing out again, carrying away the tension, the worry, the day. They do this for a few minutes, and often sleep comes. It is a form of meditation, though they would not call it that. They would call it letting the sea have you. You can try it if you like. Lie still. Place your hands gently on your stomach. Breathe in slowly, as if drawing the air from the water itself. Feel the coolness enter, feel the warmth leave. Breathe out, a long, easy sigh. The sea takes your breath and returns it, transformed. You are not losing anything. You are exchanging, sharing, becoming part of the rhythm. The sailors do not think of sleep as a problem. They do not lie awake worrying about the future or replaying the past. They live in the present, in the moment, in the ship. There is no other time. There is no other place. And so sleep comes naturally, like the tide. You might feel yourself drifting now, a little more, a little deeper. The sounds of the ship become softer, the motion more distant. You are not asleep, not yet, but you are slipping into that borderland where dreams begin. The stars above you are no longer points of light, but soft blurs, like candles seen through water. The deck beneath you is no longer hard but yielding, like a bed of moss. And in that borderland, you see a figure. It is not a ghost, not a memory. It is a woman, perhaps a goddess, perhaps a sailor's wife. She stands at the bow, her back to you, her hair long and dark, unbound. She is holding something in her hands, a small lamp, its flame steady and warm. She does not turn. She simply stands, watching the water, the sky, the horizon. She is a guardian, a presence. She is the spirit of the ship, the soul of the voyage. She is not speaking, but you understand her. She is saying that all is well. The night is safe. The sea is calm. The ship is whole. She is saying that you can rest now, truly rest, without fear, without worry. She is saying that she will watch over you until the dawn, and you believe her. You let go of the last thread of wakefulness. You sink into the deep, the true deep, the place where dreams are born and where the sea cradles you like a mother. The ship moves on. The stars turn. The night holds, and you sleep. And yet, even in that deep sleep, the body knows. It knows the rhythm of the waves, the creak of the wood, the subtle shift of the wind. It knows when the ship changes course, when the captain mutters a command, when a seabird calls in the distance. The sailor sleeps, but he does not disappear. He remains part of the ship, part of the night, part of the endless conversation between the vessel and the sea. There is a word in the Carthaginian language, a word that has been lost to us, but which the sailors used for that state of half-sleep, half-wakefulness. They called it something like the floating, a term that described both the motion of the ship and the motion of the mind. It was not a failing, not a sign of poor rest. It was a necessary skill, a way of resting while still remaining alert to danger. The sailor who could float could sleep through a storm and wake at the first crack of thunder. He could dream of home and still hear the splash of a fish leaping nearby. He was never fully gone, never fully present. He existed in the space between. You might have experienced this yourself, in your own bed, on a night when the wind rattles the window or the house settles with a groan. You drift, but you do not sink. You hear the sounds of the world outside, but they become part of your dream. The Carthaginian sailor lived his entire life in that space. His bed was the deck. His pillow was a coil of rope. His blanket was the sky. And his lullaby was the sea. There's a story about a sailor named Himilco who sailed north from Carthage into the Atlantic, beyond the reach of the Mediterranean. He encountered a sea so thick with seaweed that the ship could barely move. The crew grew frightened. They thought they had sailed to the edge of the world, where the ocean turned to mud and the sky faded into mist. But Himilco did not panic. He ordered the crew to lower the sails and wait. And so they waited for 3 days and 3 nights, drifting in a sea of green. At night, the stars were hidden behind a low fog, and the only light came from the bioluminescent creatures that swirled in the water below. They glowed like tiny lamps, like the souls of the drowned. The sailors did not sleep. They watched the water, mesmerized by the light. And Himilco, standing at the bow, spoke to them in a voice so low it was almost a whisper. He told them that the sea was alive, that it breathed, that it was dreaming them. And he told them to close their eyes and join the dream. One by one, the sailors lay down on the deck, their hands on their stomachs, their eyes closed, and they slept. They slept as the seaweed scraped the hull, as the bioluminescence swirled, as the fog wrapped around them like a shroud. They slept because Himilco had given them permission, because he had shown them that the sea was not an enemy, but a presence, a vast and patient being that had no quarrel with them. When they woke, the fog had lifted, the seaweed had parted, and the sky was clear. They sailed on into the unknown, carrying with them the memory of that night, a night when they had surrendered to the deep and been returned. You are in a similar place now. You are lying on the deck of a ship that exists only in this moment, in this story. The sea is around you, not green but dark, not thick with seaweed but clear and deep. The stars are above you, not hidden but bright. And you are floating, drifting, resting in the space between wakefulness and sleep. You have permission to let go. The captain is watching. The goddess is standing at the bow. The gods of the deep have accepted your offering. There is nothing left for you to do but follow the sailors into their dream. And what do they dream of? The Carthaginian sailors dreamed of home, of the white buildings of Carthage, of the marketplace filled with the smell of spices and the sound of haggling. They dreamed of their children, of small hands reaching for them, of laughter echoing through narrow streets. They dreamed of their wives, of warm bodies in cool beds, of whispered words and gentle touches. They dreamed of the harvest, of olives and grapes, of the wine that would be made from them. They dreamed of the next voyage, of new ports and strange lands, of the stories they would tell when they returned. But they also dreamed of the sea itself. They dreamed of waves that rose like mountains, of fish that leaped like silver, of storms that roared like angry gods. They dreamed of the deep, of the darkness below, of the creatures that lived there, unseen and unknowable. They dreamed of the journey itself, of the endless motion, of the feeling of being carried, of having no destination but the next horizon. These dreams were not nightmares. They were not frightening. They were simply part of the fabric of their lives, woven into their sleep like threads of gold and silver. The sailor who dreamed of a storm did not wake in panic. He woke with the knowledge that the storm was a dream and that the real night was calm. The The sailor who dreamed of a sea monster did not scream. He smiled because he knew that the monster was a story and that he was safe on the deck of his ship. You might have dreams like that tonight, or perhaps you are dreaming already. The line between waking and sleeping is blurred, like the line between the sea and the sky on a foggy night. You are not sure if you are hearing the creak of the ship or the sound of your own breathing. You are not sure if the warmth you feel is the sun rising or the heat of your own body beneath a blanket. It does not matter. What matters is that you are here, in this moment, in this story, in this sea. There is a tradition among the Carthaginian sailors, a simple game they played on long nights when sleep would not come. They would lie on their backs, looking up at the stars, and they would try to count them. Not all of them, of course, for that would be impossible. They would count the stars in a single constellation, or the stars in a particular cluster, or the stars that fell within the space between their thumb and forefinger. They would count slowly, deliberately, letting the numbers drift through their minds like the waves on the shore. By the time they reached 50 or 60, their eyelids would grow heavy, their thoughts would slow, and sleep would slip in unnoticed, like a thief who takes nothing but your wakefulness. You can try this now if you like. Open your eyes if they are closed, or if they are open, let them rest on a patch of sky. Find a cluster of stars, any cluster, and begin to count. 1, 2, 3. Do not worry if you lose count. Do not worry if the stars seem to blur together. That is the point. Let the counting become a rhythm, a melody, a lullaby. Let it carry you like the ship into the deep. 4, 5, 6. The numbers are not important. What is important is the act of paying attention, of letting your mind focus on something small and distant and beautiful. 7, 8, 9. The stars are ancient. They have watched over countless sailors, countless ships, countless nights. They have seen Carthage rise and fall. They have seen the sea change and remain the same. They are patient. They will wait for you. 10, 11, 12. Your eyelids are growing heavy. The stars are becoming soft like candle flames in a dark room. 13, 14, 15. You are not counting anymore. You are floating. You are drifting. You are part of the night. The ship moves on. The captain adjusts the sail. The goddess at the bow remains still, her lamp steady. The sea breathes, a slow, deep breath that lifts the ship and lets it fall. The stars turn, a slow, patient dance that has been going on for millennia. And you are in the middle of it all, a small, warm point of consciousness dissolving into the vastness. There is no need to hold on. There is no need to stay awake. The night will hold you. The sea will carry you. The story will continue, even if you are not listening. Tomorrow, the sun will rise. The sailors will wake. The ship will reach its destination, a port somewhere on the coast of Africa, or Spain, or Italy. The cargo will be unloaded. The sailors will stretch their limbs and walk on solid ground. They will eat fresh bread and drink sweet water. They will tell stories of the night just past, of the stars and the sea and the dreams that came to them. But that is tomorrow. Tonight, there is only the ship, the sea, the sky, and you, and the sleep that waits for you, patient and gentle like an old friend. Let it come. Let yourself go. The Carthaginian sailors are with you. Hanno is with you. Himilco is with you. The goddess at the bow is with you. The sea is with you. And you sleep. And as you sleep, the ship continues its quiet journey across the dark water. The wind fills the sail with a soft, steady breath, and the hull cuts through the sea with a sound like a whisper. It is a sound you have heard before, in dreams perhaps, or in some memory that does not belong to you, but has been given to you by the story. It is the sound of a world that moves without effort, that carries you not because it must, but because it is in its nature to do so. The Carthaginian sailors knew this sound well. They slept to it, night after night, month after month, year after year. It was the soundtrack of their lives, the background hum that accompanied their dreams and their waking thoughts. They did not think of it as beautiful or terrible. It simply was, like the air they breathed or the salt that crusted their skin. And perhaps that is the secret to sleeping on a ship, to sleeping anywhere, really. To accept the noise, the motion, the discomfort, and to let them become part of you, not as obstacles to rest, but as companions to it. Imagine you are one of those sailors now. You are young, perhaps, on your first voyage, or you are old, with 100 journeys behind you. It does not matter. What matters is that you have found your place on the deck, a spot between two planks that fits your body, that has been worn smooth by the hips and shoulders of those who came before you. You have wrapped yourself in a thin blanket, woven from wool and dyed with the purple of 1,000 murex shells. It is not warm, but it is enough. You have placed your head on a bundle of cloth that serves as your pillow, and you have closed your eyes. The deck is hard beneath you, but you have learned to ignore it. The wood is your bed, the sky is your ceiling, the stars are your lamp. The air is cool and damp, carrying the scent of salt and tar, and the faint, sweet smell of the cedar that the ship is built from. You breathe it in, slow and deep, and you feel your chest rise and fall in time with the ship. You are not separate from it. You are part of it, a small piece of the vessel, a living cargo that moves and breathes and dreams. There is a gentle creak as the ship leans slightly to one side, adjusting to the push of a wave. You feel it in your bones, in the subtle shift of your weight, in the way your body rocks without resistance. It is almost like being held, like being cradled in the arms of someone larger and stronger than you. You do not fight it. You let it move you, let it carry you, let it become the rhythm of your sleep. The night is quiet, but not silent. There is the sound of the water against the hull, a sound that is soft and persistent, like the breathing of a sleeping animal. There is the sound of the wind in the rigging, a high, thin note that rises and falls. There is the sound of the sailors on watch, their voices low and murmuring, exchanging words you cannot hear, words that are not meant for you. They are the guardians of the night, the ones who stay awake so that you can sleep, and you trust them. You do not need to know their names or their faces. You only need to know that they are there, that they are watching, that they will wake you if the world changes. And so you sleep. You sleep deeply, the way you sleep only when you are truly tired, when your body has given up its resistance and surrendered to the pull of rest. You do not dream, or if you do, you do not remember. The night passes like a single breath, like a moment that stretches into an hour, and then into many hours, until the sky begins to lighten and the stars fade one by one. But let us not rush toward the dawn. Let us stay here in this moment, in this night, for a little while longer. Let us feel the weight of the darkness, the coolness of the air, the gentle motion of the ship. Let us listen to the sounds that surround us, not as distractions, but as part of the music of the night. The creak of the mast, the flap of the sail, the distant call of a seabird, lost and wandering, the soft, steady breathing of the men who sleep beside you, their bodies rising and falling in unison, their dreams mingling with yours in the shared space of the deck. There is a kind of intimacy in this, a closeness that comes from sleeping side by side with strangers, from sharing the same hard surface, the same thin blanket, the same cold air. You do not know their names, but you know the rhythm of their breath, the warmth of their bodies, the small sounds they make in their sleep. A sigh, a murmur, a shift of a leg. These are the signs of life, the proof that you are not alone, that even in the vastness of the sea, you are surrounded by others who are just as tired, just as vulnerable, just as human. And somewhere on the other side of the deck, the captain is awake. He does not sleep, not tonight. He stands at the stern, his hand on the steering oar, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He does not need to see the land. He knows where it is by the stars, by the feel of the wind, by the instinct that has been honed over decades of sailing. He is the keeper of the course, the one who ensures that you will wake to a familiar world, that the ship will reach its destination, that the journey will continue. He is tired, of course. He is always tired, but he does not show it. He stands straight, his shoulders back, his gaze steady. He is the anchor of the ship, the point around which everything else revolves. And as you sleep, he watches over you, not because he knows you, but because you are his to protect. You are part of his ship, part of his cargo, part of his responsibility. He will not let you come to harm. And the goddess at the bow, she watches too. Her lamp burns with a steady flame, a light that does not flicker, a light that seems to feed on the darkness itself. She is not real, not in the way that you or the captain are real. She is a figurehead, a piece of carved wood and paint, but she is also a story, a prayer, a hope. She is the mother of the sea, the one who holds the waves in check, the one who guides the ship through the night. And if you look at her, really look at her, you might see her lips move, hear her voice whisper, feel her presence settle over you like a blessing. There's a story the sailors tell about the goddess. They say that on the darkest nights, when the stars are hidden and the sea is black, she comes alive. She steps down from the bow, her feet touching the deck with a sound like rain. She walks among the sleeping men, her hands brushing their foreheads, her voice singing a song that has no words. And those who hear her song do not wake, but they dream of a place where the sea is calm and the sky is clear, where the fish leap for joy and the wind is always kind. No one has ever seen her move, of course. No one can say for certain that the story is true. But every sailor who has slept on a Carthaginian ship has felt her presence, has woken with the sense that something had touched them, had blessed them, had watched over them through the night. And that is enough. It does not matter if the story is true or not. What matters is that it is believed, that it is carried from sailor to sailor, from voyage to voyage, like an ember that never goes out. The night continues. The ship sails on. The stars turn slowly, a great wheel of light that moves across the sky. You sleep, and in your sleep, you dream of nothing, or you dream of everything. You dream of the sea, of the ship, of the sailors who sleep beside you. You dream of the captain, of the goddess, of the journey that has no end. You dream of Carthage, of home, of the faces you have left behind, and the faces you will see again. And you are content. There is a particular skill that sailors learn, a skill that cannot be taught, but only discovered. It is the skill of sleeping anywhere, of finding rest in the most unlikely places. On a hard deck, in a cramped hold, in the shadow of a mast, in the middle of a storm. The sailor who has this skill can sleep through anything, can close his eyes and let the world disappear, can wake refreshed even when he has been sleeping on a pile of ropes, or a coil of rope, or a slab of stone. The Carthaginian sailors were masters of this skill. They had no choice. Their ships were small and crowded, their journeys long and unpredictable. They learned to sleep where they could, when they could, for as long as they could. They learned to trust their bodies to wake them when they were needed, to trust the ship to carry them while they rested. And in doing so, they discovered something that many people never learn, that sleep is not a luxury, but a necessity, not a weakness, but a strength. You are learning this now too. You are learning that the hard surface beneath you is not an obstacle, but a support. The cold air is not a discomfort, but a reminder that you are alive. The motion of the ship is not a disturbance, but a rhythm, a melody, a lullaby. You are learning to let go, to surrender, to trust. And in that letting go, you are finding a peace that is deeper than any bed, any pillow, any blanket could provide. The hours pass. The night deepens. The air grows cooler, and you pull your blanket tighter, but you do not wake. You are too far gone, too deep in the arms of sleep, too content to be disturbed. The ship rocks you, the sea holds you, the stars watch over you. You are safe. You are held. You are loved. And in the distance, just beyond the edge of your awareness, there is a faint light. It is not the light of the moon, for the moon has set. It is not the light of the goddess, for she is still at the bow. It is a light that comes from within, from the dream you are dreaming, from the memory you are carrying, from the hope that is guiding you. It is the light of dawn, the promise of a new day, the assurance that the night will end and you will wake. But not yet. Not now. Now there is only the night, the sea, the ship, and you. Now there is only sleep, and you sleep.